Good to go, Adam.
All right. Everyone, welcome back to episode 22 of Kids Deserve It. We hope you've been enjoying our weekly chats with educators and game changers from around the country. We are on iTunes. If you didn't know that, you can hear our show on iTunes. And as you can see, and if you see on Twitter, our pink Kids Deserve It shirts and our blue sweatshirts shipped this week. And they are like going like wildfire all over Twitter. It's awesome to see. Super fun. This week, we've got another great guest. But first, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Adam Welcome, elementary school principal in Danville, California.
I'm Todd Nesloni, elementary principal in Navasota, Texas. And Ross?
I'm Ross Cooper, a K-12 curriculum supervisor in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Awesome. We want to remind our viewers to participate in the chat along the side, as well as using the hashtag KidsDeserveIt on social media.
So, Ross, we got a few questions for you. So, for people that don't know you, tell us about yourself.
Now, so this past June, I started the K-12 curriculum supervisor spot in Allentown, Pennsylvania. It's a small district, about 1,600 students, 2 elementary schools, middle school, and a high school, at 2 primary schools for a year. And then before that, about six years as a 4th grade teacher in another district. So 3 districts in 3 years. Before that, I did some 3rd grade and some special ed, but mostly, an elementary school teacher. But, that's where I came from. What else? What else is interesting? Grew up in Connecticut and stuck in Pennsylvania since 2001. It's okay, though. About an hour and a half from Philly, hour and a half, 2 hours from New York City. And fun fact, I'm a huge foodie. Big fan of pizza, big fan of steak. So if you follow me on any type of social media, you've probably seen that.
Nice. I was gonna say you're always posting about pizza, I know for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's important to me that when people go to conferences or just anywhere in general that they eat well, So
you are, and I'm always telling Todd that, Ross. So if you guys could check offline about good food, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Ross, what makes you excited to be at work each day?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about the kids. And, I think there's pros and cons to having left the classroom. Definitely what I don't enjoy is being so far away from the kids and not having students that, I could call my own. But at the same time, being in a district of 1,600 students and being a central office admin, that's an opportunity for my actions and my beliefs and what I do and my words to affect 1,600 students on a daily basis. And, and does it? Probably not, but the potential is there, and I'm growing into it. It's my first year as an administrator. There's definitely growing pains. I'm not going to lie. It's not easy, but, that potential to really affect an entire district to me is just absolutely awesome.
Definitely. So as an admin, you definitely work more with adults. What do you think is the biggest difference between working with mainly just kids as a teacher and now in your new role working with adults more?
Yeah. So working with kids, you could, I still like to think I'm a kid at heart. So, working with 4th graders, I was able to mess around. I was able to be myself. You don't have to really worry about constantly being judged. Not that all adults do that, but some adults do. I really like the goofiness of being a 4th grade teacher. Being around adults all day, you kind of have to learn to be a little bit of a politician, for better or for worse. You're an administrator and, I'm not naturally a politician. I'll be the first to admit that. And, but it's something that I have 2 great mentors, and my superintendent, Randy, and my assistant superintendent, Lynn, and, who are kind of showing me the ropes a little bit in regards to how to navigate that, whether it's, just, how to use the proper wording in a conversation, how to, even today, just how to word an email correctly so people don't misconstrue it, things like that, But so I think that, that attention to detail is a lot more important when you're working with adults because they, they really do the things.
We've talked about mentors a lot actually on this show, and having a mentor is it's so important just to bounce ideas off of and kind of sit on things. And it's good to have somebody, man. I'm glad you got a couple of people in your building and in your life that help that out. So it's good.
Very cool.
Ross, if you had one wish for education, what would it be?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. And for those watching, I did not get these questions ahead of time.
No.
Wow. One wish for education, what would it be? That's ridiculously hard. I think this isn't going to be the best answer, but I think, we talked about the politics before, and I think this whole idea in education that, it doesn't seem like, given everything you see on social media, all the books being published, that, it doesn't seem like everybody's really working together. I've been in a district where the union was very union heavy. The union was very strong. I think in certain states it's stronger than others. Some districts or states, they don't have unions. So sometimes you have the policymakers, and you have the administrators, and you have the teachers, and you have the students, and you have the parents. And it almost seems like everybody's working against each other. And I think sometimes, we lose focus of what's really important.
Right.
And I think, even, what was it? Yesterday we had Joe Sanfilippo, who's awesome, superintendent out in Wisconsin. He came to our district and he talked. And, we talked about, in the boardroom, so you don't lose sight of what's important. He hangs up all these pictures of the students, and we do that as well. So when he was in a boardroom, he noticed that and he pointed that out. And I think sometimes, at the end of the day, amongst the politics, the arguing and the complaining, we forget that, we're working with students, we're working with kids, and, some of them are as young as 6 years old, and I think sometimes we lose sight of that. Right. So I think everybody working together, same goals, same, would be very powerful. Right. That's a tough question. So
we got another tough question for you. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing education right now, and how can we face that head on?
Geez. I've said this when I was a teacher, and I'll say it again as an admin. I think there's this huge rift between research and practice. I think, I did a blog post not too long ago and talked about being like Amazon literate, and this whole idea that spending a couple minutes on Amazon, you can find the definitive book or resource for any subject or topic, whether it's formative assessment, differentiated instruction, unit design, inquiry-based learning. All those resources are out there, and I think we just don't make use of them. And I don't really mean this in a negative way, but I don't get the sense that a lot of educators read and apply research to practice. I really don't. And a lot of, if you look at the way schools are now, they're very much the same way they were many years ago, despite all the research and books and ideas that are out there. And it's just, that huge rift between research and practice. I think, how do you, like you said, how do you counteract that? How do you solve that? I think effective professional development, has to be, at the heart of any district or any school. I think the traditional way it's done, 5 days a year, a certain amount of hours, you know what I mean? How many times have you seen that doesn't work? So even today I was sitting down with my assistant superintendent. I'm like, how about at the end of the year, I go into elementary schools and I just talk to the teachers. I'm like, what do you want to do with PD? Let's just, just from the ground up, what are your ideas? Just, and even if we don't come up with something, just the fact that we're communicating and letting them know that any idea is possible, I think is really powerful in itself. But, I think effective professional development, I think a lot of times giving the teachers to collaborate with one another. So often we say, here's a resource, here's a book, here's research, but we don't talk with teachers in regards to how to find it themselves. Mm-hmm. So I think there's lots of ways to break those barriers. But once again, that the explicit connections between research and practice, I think, is huge.
So Ross, who is somebody that inspires or challenges you right now?
Wow. I mentioned my assistant superintendent, Lynn, and I mentioned my superintendent, Randy. Both of them, I think they're both amazing. In my particular position I'm in right now, Lynn has worked closer with me just because she's my direct supervisor. So I'll say her just because she's my direct supervisor, but Randy's great as well. And, having working with me, having the patience to deal with my mess ups, for lack of a better word, and my growing pains, and really taking the time to mentor me, to help for the better of me, not just me, but also, the district and our students and our teachers. She's really, I've been there since June, and she's really putting a lot of time to help me get used to the job.
Nice.
It's great. So,
Ross, every week we like our guests to leave a challenge for our viewers. What's your challenge for the week?
I thought about it. So this is the one thing I was given ahead of time, 2 minutes before we started. And honestly, I think it relates to one of my answers. I think it's when I was a teacher, I used to think it was absolutely awesome. And this is something I can't do now. But I used to think it was absolutely awesome that I could read a book one day and the next day implement it. You know what I mean? Like, so I could read a book by, the foremost authority on whatever subject, whether even it's like what I have right now. I have Laura Fleming's book on makerspaces right in front of me, right? So I could read this and the next day I could implement it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would say that, that's the challenge. Read something, implement it. You're probably not going to get it right the first time because you often don't. It's all about the iterative process. Don't give up. Make it work for you. Make it work for the students who are in front of you. And then the next step of the challenge is then share out. Just make sure those successes don't just exist within the walls of your classroom, but share it out and make sure other students and other teachers and other administrators are benefiting from it.
I love that.
So that's the challenge.
Well, thank you so much, Ross, for coming on with us and doing this show. I know we kind of connected with you in a last minute, but I really appreciate it. I love, if you haven't read any of Ross's recent blog posts, I love your writing. And that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on here, because I think you bring up a lot of great points and a lot of good perspectives. So I appreciate you coming on with us tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I tried really hard to get the lighting right. The lighting in my apartment is so bad. Like I spent like 10 minutes trying to get it, and this was the best I could do.
Hey, it works. It works.
Great. Hey, next week we have Jack Ondraka on the show. So stay tuned for that, and we'll be scheduling it up. Ross, thanks again. Have a great week, man.
Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
Have a good one.